Okay, so to start, I'm going to start with the very first thing that most people end up finding out about me. What is your name? Is the question of subject, and I am going to respond as quickly and easily as I can. Jerry Michael Kofer is the secular name that I was given at birth in this man, 1972, January 5th. Jerry Michael Kofer is a name also that the United States has on record as the citizen of the United States. And so it is a ownership name in actuality that the United States seeks to hold over me, holding me to that name, and therefore unto their legalities. So, that's my name according to the secular law of the United States of America. My nickname became Jesus Fish. I used to play this game called Jesus Fish, where if anyone saw a car that had the Jesus Fish symbol on the back of it, then someone would yell Jesus Fish, and whoever yelled Jesus Fish first ended up being the person that got to hit everybody else in the car. It was a take off of that game Punch Bug, which I thought was cruel and unusual, being that the Punch Bug was a VW bug, which was also known as the Love Bug, and so I changed the name to Jesus Fish because Jesus, he took the hit, he took the fall, so let's call it Jesus Fish and look for those Christian cars to hit people over, and that's what we did. I ended up winning the game quite often, and so eventually that name ended up getting to a tattoo. The tattoo inspired others to even call me Jesus Fish. First, people couldn't remember my name, they just remembered me playing the game, Jesus Fish. And so they would be like, hey, that guy Jesus Fish, like, it suddenly became my name. Well, then, as people started calling me Jesus Fish, well, it was kind of like God and everybody calling me out to be Jesus. I didn't understand. Like you're looking at me and you're saying Jesus, and you're telling Jesus to go fish, and that's what exactly he does. So it was like all these people started to make me, and just by the command, Jesus fish. Well, then I realizing it was a command, it really was kind of like a command structure, and God fully revealing himself through his word unto me, and me even to the cross and back again into this flesh with him. It was not very hard to recognize myself with him. So, of course, he being my lead, he's the one that lives out of my life now, and that personage that he has become over the years has actually evolved from the Jesus Fish. Fish, I found out in jail, actually every first letter or every letter in the word fish is the IXOYE that we see also representing Christianity on the back of cars. The Greek word for fish, which Jesus said, I'm a fisher of men. And here I ended up becoming his fish. Years went by, and I ended up eventually coming to know God after being pistol whipped, 17 staples in the back of my head, and left for dead. I ended up hiding out for a year on the other side of the city I was living in, and I was communing with God, consistent basis, in serene environments, using Om as a mantra, and evolving the dialect that God has with himself in my own heart, in my own mind. So, eventually, actually, I became so engrossed with whom God was and is in my life that I could not hear anyone else and listen to God at the same time, and so I had to separate myself from the flock, and God took me off into the wilderness. And so I left with God. I left all my everything, my mother, my brother, my sister, my father, my own children, everything I've left in order to follow God in my own life. And very oddly, I remember, moments that I hope to recall in other videos when I went to meet with my mother and my father when I left. Those are separate videos that are subjects that I will come to. Trying to stay on to the subject of my name. So, that name that God evolved to from Jesus Fish ended up becoming, well, Jesus is Yeshua. That's the same name. And fish, being that it was the name of every letter in the word fish was the first letter of a position that God had taken upon himself in his Son. And so, I didn't know, by taking upon me the name Jesus Fish, that I was actually taking upon the name of God in full. Well, having done it, not necessarily, seeking to jest over a God that I didn't know, but that in just pure ignorance, I took that name upon me and found that I stood guilty when Jesus came to me in the flesh of this man, Silver Bear, who came to me and drew me by his words unto the wrath of God, to the vengeance of my own death with him. God drew me through his word that night, through that man he sent to me, out of my own life and into his life, just before he went to die. I went through every aspect of his death and died. It was Christ Jesus that resurrected from that moment into my life. And that is who lives out the rest of this life. That is who Keshet Yashua Jesus Israel. Israel being the house of Israel. That's how the name Israel evolved unto me, because of two reasons. One, I named my monastic think tank Little Israel. Little Israel. It was not Israel, it was Israel, because there is little that is real. And so, yeah, this little that is real is the little that I can keep. And that little bit that I keep is what I keep. It is my monastic think tank. It is where I preach. The first name, Keshet. The name Keshet is Hebrew for rainbow. And the reason I got the name Rainbow Yeshua, Rainbow Jesus, was because of this Israeli who came over here from Israel. When I met with Israel in Montana back in 2000, the government had sponsored a group to come over here. I met them in 1999 at Pennsylvania National Rainbow Gathering, where I stayed with them at their Heart Fire, and they met me for the first time. I also met up with them in Idaho at the National Rainbow Gathering out in Wisdom, Montana the next year also. I stayed with them, I even camped with them, and I helped move them out of that rainbow gathering. There was a guy there, he was an Israeli, And we were talking in the woods, and he had gotten to know me for multiples of weeks now, out living in the woods. And I had camped with him. I cooked there at the kitchen, and I slept there also. And we stayed at the Heart Fire, and it was a beautiful rainbow gathering. Awesome rainbow gathering. But this guy comes up to me and says, in jest, he calls me Rainbow Jesus, because he started jesting about calling me Rainbow Jesus, when in actuality he knows that I am not a homosexual and that no homosexual is invited into the kingdom of our God. So rather than to take his jest and accept being called Rainbow Jesus in the way that he was trying to put it, I took Keshet as the Hebrew word for rainbow, and I showed him how serious I am. So I from there proceeded to help him carry out the whole of Jerusalem Kitchen, actually, is the name of it. So that is how I got my name. Okay, well, that about sums it up for my name. You know it, Jerry Michael Kofer, a.k.a. Keshet Yashua Israel. I do have a pen name on Facebook and on Gab.com. My name is Jesus is Real. Look for my quotes, look for my sayings. I hope for support from everyone. From the cross I came. Jah love.